Good evening, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Guys, if you've not done so already, please do those like and subscribe buttons. Really helps us out when those little metrics come up and they say, you know, you've got some more likes and subscribes. But yeah, I've just caught a look at myself in the mirror and I realised that my hair needs a haircut, guys, alright? It just is what it is. It's going to come very soon. Anyway, what have we got to talk about today? Lots of stuff been happening. You know, we've got the Russians sailing nuclear capable ships down to Cuba. We've got the, you know, we've got this E. Coli outbreak in the UK that is very suspicious. Very, very, very suspicious to me. We'll talk about that. We've got, let me get this right. We've got France, Russia, Africa. We've got UK, Russia, Antarctica, and we're going to try and tie that all in together and make it, you know, into one block of, one block and see if we can make this fit. So, guys, let's begin. So, nuclear capable Russian warships are going to be making a port call in Havana on the 12th to the 17th of this month. Now, obviously, you know, people are saying, oh, it's, you know, it's a Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0. It's not, but what's more important, I think, to this that nobody's really talking about is where they're going next. They're going to Venezuela. Now, Venezuela is a huge oil producer, and they also have a very large fleet of dark ships. So we did, I did a video, I can't remember when, a while ago, and we talked about the dark shipping that's literally taking over now. So basically, countries that are sanctioned, countries that are questionable, what they do instead of, instead of having well, I guess they are proper oil ships, but instead of having, you know, regulated ships that are insured, that have got all the checks and balances, they basically have really old ships that are falling apart and they just transport their oil, and it's really dangerous them doing that way. So, you know, Russia run a big dark fleet, Venezuela run a dark fleet. So it's really interesting that the Russians are going to be going to Venezuela after this. And this is all, you know, to me, this all seems like a power grab, and it's got a lot to do with the oil that's going to be transported between these countries, as you would do before a major conflict kicked off, because you would want to secure your energy sources, predominantly your diesel, because everything runs on diesel. You know, your ships, your trucks, your tanks, everything, all your military run on diesel. So it makes perfect sense that the Russians would want to go and, you know, touch base with these people, you know, just tip the hat and make sure, hey guys, listen, you know what, is everything still good? Can we still get these ships? Are we still going to be able to get your oil? So these ships then, the warships that they're sending, it's kind of not like the Cuban Missile Crisis, but, you know, I guess it is in the sense that it involves Cuba. So the main issue is that they can be armed with hypersonic, these hypersonic missiles that the Russians have been using in Ukraine. Now, we know the Russians have got them because they've been using them. They can be armed with nuclear-tipped a nuclear-tipped warhead, but you know, I think I'm the only person who's started talking about naval asymmetric warfare. So I don't really see the threat here, because I think the real threat would come from these hypersonic missiles launched off the back of civilian shipping vessels. But nevertheless, guys, you know, people are making the what's the word I'm looking for? They're looking at the Cuban Missile Crisis. Back in 1962, Nikolai Khrushchev and Kennedy. Basically, Kennedy said, "You're not." The Russians wanted to put missiles in Cuba. The Americans said, "No, you're not putting missiles in Cuba." The Russians said, well, you know what, we're sailing in international waters, you don't have the right to stop us, we're bringing our ships down and we're going to put missiles in Cuba. So the Americans said, right, okay, you want to go that road. They made a line in the ocean basically. They said, right guys, you go past this line and we're going to sink your ships. The Russians said, okay, you sink our ships, we're sending our intercontinental ballistic missiles. Kennedy said, okay, let's do this. They were sailing down, and at the last minute they turned back. So that's kind of the Cuban Missile, I'm shortening that. That was the Cuban Missile Crisis in a nutshell. But, that's what they're talking about here. It kind of isn't, but, I get the sentiment. So also, guys, all right, for me, this is really interesting, and I think this story is going to blow up over the next couple of, the next couple of weeks, the next couple of days. It's just so suspicious to me. The E. coli outbreaks in the UK. So, if you didn't know, there's been 113 cases of E. coli reported in the UK. Now, that's of today. I'm suspecting this is going to go up, and it's going to go up again. I think it's going to go up pretty rapid because of the reason I'll come on to. Now, they're saying this has got a wide age range between 2 years old and 79, but then they're saying most cases are in young adults. Now, here's the kicker, guys, all right? They're saying this was caused by nationally distributed food. And again, I'm like, what? So there's E. coli, but you're not telling us what we can't eat. Very strange indeed. So what was it? My first question, you can't, they're telling us now that there's a problem with the food supply somewhere, and they're not telling us what. Anyway, I don't know. Why? Why are people getting this now? Is it food is it cooked food? Like, I don't know, your fast food restaurants, a restaurant chain? Is it food you've got from a supermarket? They're not telling us, they're not telling us anything. And why now? Why have people started to get sick now? What's changed? What's changed in that food supply? What's changed in that structure? So, excuse me. So the exact source is, it's yet to be confirmed, and I would like a little bit of, as a taxpayer, I would like a little bit of a steer in the sense that don't eat beef, don't eat chicken, don't go to this restaurant. Anything would be good. But, they're not telling us the exact source yet, as it's yet to be confirmed. But what we do know is that there are 81 cases in England, 18 cases in Wales, 13 in Scotland, and 1 case in Northern Ireland. But that 1 case in Northern Ireland is being linked to a visit to the UK. So I was trying to find it, but I couldn't find it online anywhere. I'm sure this morning when I looked at this article, there was a lot less cases, and I think it was like in the 30s or something. So I don't know if I just can't find it because I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure when I looked at this morning, the cases were a lot lower. So I don't know if these have, risen over the past 24 hours. Guys, what this reminds me of is a scene from Austin Powers. So let me know if you understand the scene. Where he's playing the, I don't know what he's called, I think it's called Twist or something, where you've got to basically get 21. And there's the guy he's playing with, and he's got the electronic eye, and he can, he can see into the cards, and, he's cheating. And, and he's saying twist or stick. Anyway, the guy gets, the guy's got like 16 or something. I think the guy's got 18. And he says twist, and, and the guy behind pulling the cards, he says, "But sir, you have 18. And I think he looks at Austin Powers and he says, "I like to live dangerously." And he's like, "Right, okay." So he twists and he gets like a 2, and everybody claps because he's got 20. And then Austin Powers gets his cards and he's got 21, so he's beat him already. And he says to the guy, he says, "Twist," and he says, "But sir, you have 21. And Austin Powers says, "I also like to live dangerously." This is what I'm getting on this, guys, all right? Like, they're not telling us what it is. And are we supposed to guess? Are we supposed to just not eat anything? I don't know, guys. And then what you can do with this, remember from my video yesterday, you can add in this a bird flu chaser. So as if we haven't got enough to worry about with World War III evolving as we speak, we've got E. coli, E. coli that I think is going to get a lot bigger, and we've got the bird flu cases that's just jumped from, the first case jumped from birds to humans. Guys, honestly, so much stuff happening, and Friday is not even over yet. So now, what I want to do as well, I want to try and tie this in with some more stuff that's going on a more geopolitical stage now. So we've, it's all over the news about France supplying Ukraine with this stuff, France sending training, all the stuff France supporting, Ukraine. What nobody's talking about is the France and Russian, what do I say, conflict, if I can use that word. But basically, France and Russia are heavily invested in Africa with mineral extraction. There are so many, mining companies out there, both, Russian and French. The Russians are trying to take control of the French uranium in West Africa. So, this is all playing into this cauldron of chaos now between France, Russia and Africa. Sergei Lavrov was out in Africa as well, and he's pledging weapons now and military support to these African nations. Why is he doing that? Well, he wants to bolster them, he wants to buy them, he wants to have their support, because as we move forward into this, into global conflict, I think the Russians understand that this next war is going to be 100%, it's going to be a war of industry, it's going to be a war of logistics, it's going to be who can produce the most, fastest, and get it out to their troops. So the conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq over the last, 21 years, something like that, they were predominantly light infantry special forces wars, where you would use small teams, you would take out headshed, the headshed would replace that person with somebody who wasn't as competent, you would then take him out, or her, and eventually, once you cut off the head of the snake, the body collapses, which is kind of what happened, what happened in Iraq, it's what happened in Afghanistan. Then your enemy has to turn into a non-conventional war, and then you fight a counter-insurgency. These conflicts that we're heading towards are going to be a war of industry, a war of production. And the Russians, I feel, are securing their raw materials, because it's all well and good, being able to produce the most sophisticated equipment. If you can only produce one of them, it's kind of no good. The Russians are going down the bulk mass production line, and they've got their war, they've got their war economy up and running, and we really have to catch up in the West, because we just don't have it. And from what I'm seeing with the Russian influence in Africa, the Russians really are securing those natural resources. That's not to say that us in the West don't have natural resources. There's Australia, that's a huge, there's got huge natural resources in Australia. There's America that has huge natural resources. There's other places around the world. But Africa's the main one. Africa's the one that, is producing, I think it's producing the most. I dare say that, yeah. And so that's what you've got there, guys, okay? Behind the scenes to this facade, well, it's not a facade. Behind the scenes to this France supporting Ukraine, you've got the France and Russia having a mineral war, a soft war in Africa, and that's the reality, all right? You've got copper, you've got all the minerals in Africa. Then you've got the UK, Russia, and Antarctica. So I've done a dedicated video on this, so I'll just run through it quickly. Oil that's found in just off the coast of the Falklands, in the Antarctic region, in the British Antarctic region, that is a huge amount of money. So the Russians, they will have a plan to take that oil. They will have a plan to take it and get as much of that oil as they can. And the UK will then obviously have to defend that. How's this going to work? What are we going to move forwards into? I don't know, but I can guarantee you there is some plan there, and it's all about controlling these resources, guys. All right, and that's why these chips are moving on the, that's why these chips are moving on the, on the board. And as soon as all the chips are set, then things are going to start to fall. And it's only going to take one little, at the moment, like one little Franz Ferdinand moment, and everything's going to go up. I've highlighted already that I think this peace summit on the, the 14th? I think it's the 14th. I think it's going to coincide with the trip to Cuba. I've said this peace summit, that's a huge risk for me. I think Zelensky going there, holding this peace summit, it's going to be a huge risk. If it goes without incident, I'd be very surprised. Don't forget, there's cyber attacks that could happen. There's all sorts of other things that could happen. And, I'm not going to call it right now, but with this E. coli outbreak, if you remember my video I did a couple of days ago, and I gave you the top 10, I say top 10, well, I gave you 10 civilian targets for, you know, a hostile actor to attack the UK. I said food supply. Our food supply is so vulnerable. Nobody protects our food supply. And why would they? We just, you know, we have a tacit agreement that if you know, destroy our food supply, you're destroying it for everyone. But, you know, I'm not saying this is it. I will look at this, I'll examine it further, and if I think it is sabotage, I will let you guys know. But I did say a couple of days ago that food supplies are a huge vulnerability. Food supplies, water supplies, anything that's basically, you know, critical, kind of critical that we eat, guys. Anyway, so it's Friday. Thank you for watching me, guys. I'll be doing another 2 videos tomorrow, and look after yourself.